Hello students, I am Akshay Deshpande and welcome to another biology class, class 4 on biomolecules. And in this class, we will be mainly trying to understand our concept on the metabolism, and also we will look into the metabolic basis of living, right? On what basis we say that any living organism is actually living, right? Yes. So that we are trying to understand from the metabolic perspective, why metabolism is a kind of a unique, we can say, a property of living organisms, how it is mainly involved in keeping the living organism living, right? And finally, we will conclude our discussion on the living state, right? So these are some of the important concepts that we will be studying in this particular class. And finally, at the end of the class, as you all know, we will discuss questions on the concepts that we have discussed yet. So now, the concept of metabolism. Okay, so now if you consider any living organism, okay, any living individual, you can see that there are numerous organic molecules. And we know that any molecule that is derived, okay, if it is derived from, okay, it is derived from carbon, then we call it as what? Organic molecule. We all know that, right? So there will be what we can say n number of molecules, numerous molecules occurring at a given moment of time in the case of living organisms, okay? And we also see that these molecules are present at one particular concentration. Okay, it is said that it is a stable concentration. It is a stable concentration, right? So we can say that none of the molecules are excess or low. Okay, none of the molecules are excess or none of the molecules are in a low concentration, right? They are always maintained in one particular concentration, in a stable concentration, we can say, right? And generally we can actually measure this concentration in a given unit called as the mole per cell. Okay, it is called as the moles per cell, or we can even say it as the moles per liter. Okay, it is moles per liter or a moles per cell. That is what the units that we mainly use to describe the amount of the organic molecules present in one particular concentrations, right? So now we see that, we observe that these molecules are actually having a turnover. Okay, we are having a concept called as what? Metabolic turnover. Okay, the term metabolic turnover means that in a cell, we observe that the biomolecules are constantly changed to some other molecules, other biomolecules, right? Yes. So these reactions, okay, these reactions we call them as what? Turnover kind of reactions. Okay, so it does not mean that, for example, if you consider amino acids, right? If you consider amino acid, there is no rule that this molecule inside the cell will remain as it is. Okay, it will remain as it is. No. Okay, it will never remain as it is. Okay, it means that if an amino acid is present inside the cell, it is not remaining as amino acid only, right? It will be used for mainly formation of protein. Okay, it is mainly used for formation of protein, right? Yes, it may be used for the formation of the protein. Or similarly, when the protein is actually formed inside the cell, there is no rule that the molecule will be present in the form of protein only. The protein may be broken down to give us the amino acids back. It may break down to give us back the amino acids, right? So we can say that amino acids may be joined to form the proteins, and proteins may be broken down to give us the amino acids. So there is none of the molecules, none of the biomolecules will remain in a same state. Okay, they will be constantly changed into from one form to another form, and this is what we mean by the term turnover, right? We have mentioned it over here. Constantly the molecules are being changed into from one form to the another, right? So now we can see that these making and breaking kind of reactions are constantly occurring, right? See, for example, we have discussed about the amino acid, right? I will take one amino acid and I will join it with another amino acid, right? And I will add one more amino acid and I will add one more amino acid. So don't you think that these kind of reactions are actually called as making reactions, right? They are actually called as the making reactions. These are actually called as the making kind of reactions, or we can even say that they are actually constructive reactions. Yes, so these kind of reactions are actually the constructive kind of reactions. Now there are some reactions, we also call them as breaking the reactions. Exactly, right? If I break the protein, if I break this particular bond, if I break this particular bond, and if I similarly break this particular bond, what is the result? I can see that I will get independently amino acids. I will get independently amino acids, right? So I will get free molecules of free randomly formation of amino acids, right? So breaking down of a protein to release the amino acids, we call them as the breaking breaking reactions. We call them as breaking kind of reactions, right? So collectively we can say that the making kind of reactions, making kind of reactions, and breaking kind of reactions, we call them as the sum of these two kind of reactions are called as the metabolism. It is called as the metabolism, right? If I use the term making kind of reactions and breaking kind of reactions, the sum of these two reactions are called as the metabolism, right? So here that is what they have mentioned over here. That is the metabolism is a sum of two types of reactions. The first one, it is called as the metabolic reactions, and another one is called as the anabolic reactions, right? So here anabolic reactions are mainly used for making a kind of reactions, right? So anabolism, right? Any kind of reactions where two molecules are joined together to form more complex kind of molecules, right? If I fuse or if I attach two simple kind of molecules, that results in the formation of more complex molecules, right? So we can say that the anabolism results in the formation of complex molecules, complex molecules. Then it is called as mainly the anabolism, right? And similarly I will write one more that is called as the catabolism, catabolism, right? So in these kind of reactions, what actually happens, you can see that they are called as the breaking kind of reactions, which result in the formation of the simple molecules, right? It results in the formation of simple molecules, right? So if there is a formation of complex molecules, then we call it as anabolism. If it is resulting in the formation of simple molecules, it is called as the catabolism, right? So hence we can say that the sum of these two reactions, that is the catabolic reactions and the anabolic reactions, we call them as the metabolism. The sum of these two reactions are called as the metabolism, right? Of course we will try to understand about catabolism and metabolism, that is anabolism and catabolism in shortly also, right? So these kind of reactions, it is called as the transformation reactions. We are having some examples. If I remove the if I remove the carbon dioxide from the amino acid, you can see that an amine is actually formed. if I remove the carbon dioxide, if I remove the carbon dioxide from the amino acid, the result we get is actually the amine, right? Similarly, breaking of what we can say glycosidic bond. The breaking of glycosidic bond is actually what results in the formation or release of water, right? So it's a dehydration kind of reaction, right? So hydrolysis of what we can say glycosidic bond. We all know where do you find the glycosidic bond. The glycosidic bond are mainly formed in the case of the carbohydrates, that is the polysaccharides, right? In the case of polysaccharides, you mainly see that it is mainly having what kind of bonds? That is the glycosidic bond. Okay, an example for polysaccharide we are having is the cellulose, right? We have studied about cellulose a lot. I will take one glucose molecule, attach it with another glucose molecule, and similarly with another glucose molecule, and so on. So this bond, what we are looking over here, are actually called as the glycosidic bond. And if I break this bond, then it is hydrolysis of glycosidic bond, right? So if you are removing, okay, removing or attaching, right? So this is actually converting one type of molecule into another kind of molecule. Hence, such kind of reactions are called as the transformation. Transformation, what does the term transformation mainly means? It means that we are converting it to the another form. Okay, hence they are called as the transformation reactions. Okay, so one example we have discussed over here is what? Mainly removal of certain groups. For example, if I remove the carbon dioxide, we get is the amine, right? So if I break the glycosidic bond, we get simple sugar molecules, that is the glucose, if we consider cellulose as the example, right? Yes. Now we can observe that metabolic reactions can never occur in isolation, right? They never occur alone. Okay, they are always a series of linked reactions. Interestingly, all of these reactions are actually linked reactions, right? See, we can consider one of the well-known and well-studied examples from our classes, current class. For example, we can look into the energy metabolism, okay? Energy metabolism, yes. Because you people will study about these examples a lot in upcoming sections, okay? See, we can consider about the glucose, right? Yes. We can consider the glucose. Glucose is actually broken down into a series of 10-step reactions. Okay, it is broken down through a 10-step reactions. And what is the final product we get? We get a pyruvic acid. Okay, we get pyruvic acid as our final product. Okay, now interestingly, pyruvic acid, which is the last product after breaking down the glucose, here it does not stop. Okay, so again, the fate of the pyruvic acid depends upon whether there is a presence of oxygen or whether there is no oxygen, right? So if there is a complete presence of oxygen, what happens? The pyruvic acid actually enters into the next stage of a series of reactions called as the Tca cycle, right? Or also called as the Krebs cycle. Yes, we have studied about this cycle, right? Yes, you will study about mainly this in the respiration. That is the tricarboxylic acid cycle, also called as the Krebs cycle. Right? Yes. So we can say that the pyruvic acid is a molecule that is actually involved in linking one type of metabolic reaction with the next type of metabolic reaction, right? It is a linking molecule, right? It does not stop only, the glycolysis does not stop just after the formation of the pyruvic acid, right? The actual process of breaking down the glucose into pyruvic acid is actually stopped. Right? But however, you can see that the pyruvic acid, after it is formed, the fate of this pyruvic acid ultimately depends upon whether there is presence of oxygen or not, absence of oxygen. And if there is oxygen, then it will enter into the next cycle, that is the Tca cycle, right? And finally, the products of the Tca cycle and the glycolysis, we get mainly some of the molecule called as the NAD, and one more we are having is the FAD. Okay, it is mainly NADH2 and FADH2, right? So these molecules will finally enter into the last stage of respiration. It is called as the electron transport system, right? So we can say that this is the last phase of the aerobic respiration. right? So you can see that these set of reactions are actually linked reactions, okay? And we generally call these linked reactions as a metabolic pathways, okay? It is what? Metabolic pathways. So generally these metabolic reactions or metabolic pathways are either may be linear, or they may be circular, or they may be again what? They may be interconnected, right? So we have discussed about the pyruvic acid, which is being involved in the Tca cycle, and ultimately it is the product of the glycolysis, okay? So we can say that the next stage of aerobic respiration is linked by the pyruvic acid. Hence it is a true statement for our discussion, okay? And also we said that the reactions may be circular, or they may be even linear, right? So what do you mean by linear kind of reactions? For example, A is converted into B, B is converted into C, C is converted into what? D, right? So these kind of reactions are called as the linear reactions. Exactly, right? But whereas some of the reactions may also be cyclic or circular, okay? Circular in the sense they are mainly referring to the term cyclic in nature, okay? So it means that, for example, A will give us the B, B will give us a C, C will give us a D, and D will again come back and result in the formation of what? A molecule, right? So these kind of reactions we call them as what? A circular or a cyclic what we can say type of metabolic reactions, okay? So there is no specific rule that the reactions should be occurring either only linear or either only circular, okay? And they can be either linear or they can be either circular, and similarly many of these pathways are interconnected like traffic junctions, okay? Yes, they are connected as traffic junctions, right? See, for example, if there is a road over here, consider this is a road, right? Yes. So here we are having around 5 road, and at the beginning of each road we can see that there is a traffic signal over here, right? So the switching on and off of the lights which are present at each road will control the moving of traffic from this road to this to this, and this to this, right? Simultaneously vice versa, from one particular road to any other particular kind of road, right? So we can say that these are traffic junctions. If they are interconnected, they are called as the traffic junctions. And interestingly, there is no jam occurring inside these traffic junctions, okay? No jam, right? None of the molecule gets struck or stopped in between during these processes, metabolic reactions, okay? They are highly coordinated and work in a very beautiful fashion. Yes, right? So now this is what we call as the flow of metabolites, right? So let us consider the glucose reaction only, okay? For example, if we consider first few steps, so glucose to glucose 6-phosphate, glucose 6-phosphate, right? Yes, from glucose 6-phosphate we get the, okay, fructose 6-phosphate, right? Yes. So this is what we call it as the flow of metabolites, right? It is always converted into one molecule to the another molecule, which is called as the turnover, okay? And finally, after the product formation of one metabolic reaction, that is the pyruvic acid, it immediately enters into the next stage of cycle, that is the Tca cycle, right? So movement of we can say movement of the pyruvic acid into the Tca cycle or the tricarboxylic acid cycle is called as the flow of metabolites, right? And this state of continuously moving of metabolites is called as the dynamic state of body constituents. They're called as the dynamic state of the body constituents. Dynamic means what? Always constantly moving, okay? Not stationary, not stagnant. That is what the term, it is exactly opposite of the dynamic, okay? Stationary or stagnant means that stopping, okay? Dynamic means constantly moving, right? This is the meaning of dynamic, okay? Dynamic state of body constituents. It means that ultimately what are the constituents of the cell or living organism? Biomolecules, right? So these biomolecules will be constantly moving into one form into the another form, or they may be moving into what? They may be moving into the from one type of metabolic reaction into another type of metabolic reactions, right? Now we also see that almost all kind of organic reactions, okay, metabolic reactions, what you see, the reactions occurring inside the cell, all of them are actually catalyzed reaction, okay, all of them are what? Catalyzed reaction, okay. So you will study about the catalysis more detail in the last class of the biomolecules, where you'll study about the enzymes more properly, right? So here in the case of a catalyzed reaction, you require a molecule called as the catalyst, okay. You require a molecule called as what? Catalyst, okay. So what does a catalyst do? Catalyst basically alters the rate of reaction, right? It mainly alters the rate of reaction. So what do you mean by the rate of reaction? It means that either the reaction is speeded, okay, either it is speeded up, okay, either it increases the rate of reaction, or either it may be slowed down, okay, either it may be what? Slowed down, right? So this is called as alteration of the rate of reaction, okay. And any molecule that is involved in altering the rate of reaction is called as an catalyst, right? Yes. So as they have mentioned over here, metabolic reactions are catalyzed reactions, and catalysts alter mainly the rate of reactions, okay. And some proteins are actually having catalytic power, hence they are referred as enzymes, right? So we will be studying about enzymes in the last class of the biomolecules, right? That is the next class. We will be studying about the biomolecules, right? So in the cell, okay, in the cell, almost all the enzymes that we know, major of the enzymes that we know are none other than the proteins, okay. But it doesn't mean that all of the proteins are actually enzymes, right? We have discussed this. For example, collagen is actually a protein, but it doesn't make it as an enzyme, right? But however, rubisco, catalase, peroxidase, all of these are enzymes, and they are also proteinaceous in nature. They're also what? Proteinaceous in nature. We are having one exception to this particular rule, that is called as the RNA. Okay, mainly the RNA. Okay, there is an enzyme that is derived from the RNA molecule, and it is called as the ribozymes. It is called as the ribozymes. Okay, let me write it more clearly over here. It is called as the ribozymes. Okay, now ribozymes are actually exception to the concept of what we can say enzymes, okay, because we can say that almost all of the enzymes that we have recorded in the nature are mainly proteinaceous in nature, okay. They're mainly made up of proteins, but however ribozymes are not made up of proteins, okay, at least the part that is involved in the catalysis, okay. What do you mean by catalysis? See, remember, in the case of enzymes, okay, any enzyme, if you consider any enzyme, okay, this enzyme is having the catalytic property. It is having the catalytic property. And what do you mean by catalytic property? It means that formation of a bond or breaking of bond, okay. Either you're going to break the bond or either you're going to form the bond, right? So this property is called as catalytic property, right? So ribosomes have, that is the ribozymes, okay. Ribosomes are none other than the ribozymes only, okay. So the ribozymes are actually having this catalytic property, okay. So we can say that the part of the ribozyme which is having this property, that is the catalytic property, is not made up of protein. It is completely RNA in nature, okay. So it is said that ribozymes actually have proteins, okay. They have protein molecules, okay. They actually have the protein molecules. But interestingly, as I said, though ribozyme has some protein content, but this protein that is present in the ribozyme is not having catalytic property. Okay, it has been proved, it has been experimentally proved that ribozymes, mainly the RNA part of the ribozymes, are involved in the catalysis. Okay, so any example for ribozyme? Yes, we are having, that is the ribosome. Okay, ribosome, is an example for what? A ribozyme. Okay, I can understand it is quite congested. Okay, if I erase, the whole thing can go. Okay, so what we can do is we can just erase some part over here. Yeah. Okay, so let me write the same point again over here, that an exception to enzyme, that is a proteinaceous enzyme, is the ribozymes, right? Ribozymes are mainly made up of RNA molecules, and these ribozymes have the catalytic property. Yes, it is mainly having catalytic property, and an example for ribozyme is the ribosome. Remember this. Okay, some questions have appeared in the previous question papers regarding asking which of the following is not made up of protein and yet is having a catalytic property. Okay, it is mainly ribosome. Okay, so the option they may give you as a ribozyme or a ribosome, all of it actually means the same, right? So let's look into the next part, that is a metabolic basis for living. Okay, metabolic basis for living. So here, metabolic basis of living, as in a moment ago we discussed about the two reactions, that is catabolic reactions and anabolic reactions, right? That is what we'll be discussing over here. Okay, so the metabolic pathways can result in the formation of a complex structure, or it may result in the formation of a simple structure. Okay, for example, conversion of acetic acid to cholesterol. Okay, now this is actually a result in the formation of complex structure, right? And these kind of reactions, we call them as anabolic reactions. Okay, anabolic reactions. Yes, but whereas if it is resulting in the formation of a simple structure, okay, then such kind of reactions are called as the catabolic reactions, right? For example, breaking down of glucose to lactic acid, glucose to lactic acid, right? That is, we can say that it can be called as a catabolic reaction. Catabolic reactions. It is called as a catabolic reactions, right? So generally, we observe that anabolic reactions are the energy consuming kind of reactions. Okay, so these are the kind of reactions which require energy, right? Because ultimately we are joining two simple molecules for the formation of a complex structure, right? Hence such kind of reactions we obviously expect them to consume energy. Okay, so we can consider an example, that is the protein formation. Okay, protein formation in the sense I will take one amino acid. Yes, exactly what you people thought that I would say. So yeah, so this is what we can say. This is actually a protein formed. Okay, it is actually what? It is a protein formed, right? So formation of protein is ultimately done by which organelle? My question is, which of the organelle is involved in the formation of protein? If I'm not wrong, your answer should be ribosomes, right? Yes, it is the ribosome that ultimately produces or synthesizes the protein, right? Yes, so ribosome actually consumes ATP. Remember this. Okay, actually consumes ATP. Okay, and the ATP that is consumed by the ribosome is mainly for the peptide bond formation. Peptide bond formation. Okay, this is where the ATP is actually consumed. Okay, so the ATP consumption by the ribosome for the protein synthesis is mainly for the formation of peptide bond. Okay, so if I have to ask a question regarding peptide bond, can you tell me which of the functional groups of the amino acid is mainly involved in the formation of peptide bond, right? So I can't know whether you're telling the answer or not, but I assume that your answer is going to be the carboxyl group and the amino group. Okay, so even if you told it correctly, very good, and if you have not got it correct, then don't worry, read some more and invest more time in these questions. Yeah, so we can say that the consumption of energy is generally observed in the kind of anabolic type of reactions. However, in the case of catabolic kind of reactions, these are mainly energy releasing or energy yielding kind of reactions. Okay, energy yielding or energy releasing kind of reactions, right? So one example we are having is the glycolysis. Okay, glycolysis is something that you people will study more detailed in the respiration chapter. Okay, so we all know the glycolysis. Okay, glycolysis. Okay, it is a reaction that ultimately involves breaking of glucose to pyruvic acid. Okay, pyruvic acid, right? So if there is no oxygen, then the pyruvic acid, okay, let me write this, no oxygen, okay, the pyruvic acid is converted into lactic acid. Lactic acid, right? So if there is actually oxygen, presence of oxygen, we can say that pyruvic acid enters to the Krebs cycle, right? So if there is what we can say oxygen present during these reactions, the pyruvic acid immediately enters into the Krebs cycle, and the further aerobic respiration goes on. Okay, so now breaking of glucose is actually called as the glycolysis. Okay, glyco means glucose, lysis, breaking. Okay, hence the breaking of glucose is called as the glycolysis. Okay, and interestingly, glycolysis is actually a 10-step reaction. It is a 10-step reactions. Okay, remember this point. And all of the reactions are actually enzyme catalyzed. Okay, it is mainly enzyme catalyzed, all the 10-step reactions. Okay, so we can see that none of the reactions are not controlled, none of the reactions are occurring in the absence of enzymes. Okay, all of these reactions are actually occurring in the presence of enzymes. And interestingly, you can see that not a single enzyme is controlling all the 10 steps. Okay, each step is having its own unique enzymes, and that you people will be studying in the, as I said, respiration chapter. Okay, so the 10 steps, it's a 10-step reaction, and all the 10 steps are what we can say are the catalyzed enzyme catalyzed reactions. And finally we can say that the net product, what is the product that you get from the glycolysis, is the ATP. Okay, ATP is the, what we can say, final product of the glycolysis. Okay, so remember the formation of what we can say lactic acid is generally occurring in the case of muscles. Okay, yes, okay, muscles, because muscles are the ultimately the structures which are involved in the locomotion. Okay, so if you are doing any kind of fast running activity, okay, or any kind of anaerobic activity, what happens is that during the rigorous activity such as running or sprinting, okay, you will fall short of oxygen, right? So even in the absence of oxygen, the glucose is broken down into pyruvic acid, and pyruvic acid is finally converted into the lactic acid. Okay, the reason is mainly regeneration of the NAD. Remember this. Okay, NAD is regenerated, and the regenerated NAD is required or important for converting or going on with the another cycle of the glycolysis. Yeah, we will study all these details in the further class. Okay, now the glycolysis, as we discussed, is a reaction that occurs in all the living organisms. Okay, glycolysis, we can say that occurs in all the living organisms. Remember this. It is not that none of the living organism does not show glycolysis. All of them show the glycolysis. And ultimately, the energy that is liberated from the catabolic reactions are trapped in the chemical bonds. That is what we are seeing over here. The energy liberated, okay, all of these energy that are liberated or generated is actually stored in the form of the chemical bonds. Right? Yes. And these chemical bonds are called as the high energy, okay, it is called as the high energy chemical bonds. It is called as the high energy chemical bonds. Okay, generally such a molecule is called as the ATP. Okay, what is the full form of ATP? If you all know, it is called as the adenosine triphosphate. Yes. Okay, so now if you ask where the energy is stored in the ATP, it is the phosphate bonds. Remember, okay, it is mainly the phosphate bonds are called as the high energy bonds. Okay, they are called as the high energy bonds. Okay, because ultimately the phosphate bonds are containing that energy that are required to drive or that are required to run these metabolic reactions. Okay, hence in a very general sense we refer ATP as the currency of the cell. Okay, it is called as what? Currency of the cell. Right? So ultimately you can see that metabolic reactions are controlling everything. Okay, metabolic reactions control everything. That is, metabolic reactions are mainly two types of reactions, that is the catabolic reactions and anabolic reactions. The sum of these two kind of reactions we call it as the metabolism. Okay, so some of the metabolic reactions are energy consuming and such kind of reactions are called as the anabolic reactions, and some metabolic reactions are energy yielding kind of reactions, and such reactions are called as the catabolic reactions. And ultimately these two kind of reactions are responsible for converting one type of biomolecule into another type of biomolecule. Okay, be it converting it into complex structure or be it in resulting in formation of simpler structure. Whatever it is, this is how the whole things run in the living organisms. Right? Yeah. So finally, we will look into the concept called as the living state. Okay, so now what makes us to say that any organism is living? Okay, what makes us to tell, okay, we are living, right? So interestingly, none of the components of the cells are actually living. Okay, none of the cell components, none of the cell components are actually living, right? Yes. Don't you think this is a very quite interesting over here? Okay, none of the cell constituents, no matter or no component of the cell is living, right? Then how can we call ourselves as living? Yes, ourselves as living. Are we actually living? How can we call ourselves as living, right? So the answer to this is actually the interaction of the biomolecules. Okay, yes, it is mainly the interaction of these biomolecules that are actually keeping us living, right? And these interaction are none other than the metabolic reactions only. Okay, it is mainly the metabolic reactions. So we can say that these metabolic reactions are occurring inside the cell, hence we are living, right? So the moment these reactions stop occurring, okay, so we can say that when there is no metabolic reactions, okay, then we can call ourselves as dead. Yes, okay, or we can say death. So when there is no reaction occurring, when there is no metabolic reaction occurring, we can say that the organism is completely dead. The organism is completely dead. This is what the conclusion we can derive. Okay, so we can look into the concept of a living state over here. The metabolites, as we have discussed, are present at a characteristic concentration. An example for this we are having is what? Glucose, right? So generally the concentration of glucose present in the blood is around 4.2 millimole per liter to 6.1 millimole per liter. Okay, so we can say that minimum concentration is around 4.2. The maximum concentration it can hit in the blood is around going to be 6.1, right? And interestingly, we are actually having a hormone for this regulation, right? So the hormone that is involved in controlling the glucose concentration is called as the insulin. Okay, we have discussed about the insulin. Insulin is actually a protein hormone that is ultimately involved in controlling the concentration of the blood sugar. Okay, but if you consider the concentration of glucose present in the blood and the concentration of hormones that are present in the blood, don't you think it is going to be a huge difference? Okay, energy stands for nanograms. Okay, so we can say that the concentration of the glucose is around millimoles per liter, but however the concentration of hormones is what? It is even less than that millimoles. Okay, it is in the nanograms. Okay, nano means 10 raised to minus 9, right? Nano means 10 raised to minus 9, right? So you can see that how scanty the concentration is. Okay, we can say it is completely nil only. Okay, but still at such low concentration, the hormones can bring out such a profound and a big effect. Okay, that tiny concentration of hormone is responsible for controlling the sugar levels in the body. Okay, so we can say that the living systems are always at a steady state and are characterized by concentration of each biomolecule. Okay, so as we mentioned that these biomolecules are present at a one particular characteristic concentration. Okay, and any living system that is present at a steady state, constant state, is called as the steady state. Okay, is having a particular concentration of these biomolecules. None of the biomolecule exceeds that concentration, and none of the biomolecule goes below that required concentration. Okay, hence any process that moves is we call it as what? Equilibrium. Okay, equilibrium. We have discussed about the osmosis, right? What does the osmosis tells us? What is the definition of osmosis? Movement of water molecule from a region to higher concentration to the region of lower concentration until the equilibrium is attained, right? So after equilibrium is attained, do you think there will be exchange of water molecules between the two systems? No, right? Hence we can say that any system that is reaching the equilibrium, we can say that it is dead. Okay, so we can say that the living systems avoid attaining equilibrium. Okay, we can say that living systems, okay, avoid reaching equilibrium. Okay, equilibrium, right? The moment they reach equilibrium, they become dead, right? So as they are avoiding to reach equilibrium, hence they are leaving. Yes. Okay, so if they reach equilibrium, we call them as dead, and if they avoid reaching equilibrium, it is called as a living system. Okay, so that is what the cells are doing. The cells will try their best to avoid reaching equilibrium, and this can be done by the metabolic reactions, because ultimately the metabolic reactions are the kind of reactions that are going to consume the energy and also the yielding of the energy, right? So you can see over here that thus living systems avoid equilibrium and are able to perform the work. Okay, hence this system, okay, that is this way, that is avoiding the equilibrium, can be achieved by energy input. Okay, and we know that ultimately the energy is what? ATP molecules, right? So the living state, we can say it is equivalent, synonymous means equivalent to, samanarthaka pada anta helbodu now, right? So it is synonymous to the metabolism. Okay, no metabolism means there is no living state. If there is no metabolism occurring, we can say that there is no living state present. Okay, it means that it is completely dead. This is what we mean by the term living state, right? So we have discussed quite elaborately about all of these concepts. Okay, generally one question we have seen has having appeared over here from this particular concept. Okay, so generally you have to remember what we can say, more concept based. If the question is going to appear from this section, it is going to be more concept based. That is, which of the following statement is true or not true. In this way the questions are going to be appearing, if they are going to appear, right? Yes. So let us discuss a few questions over here. Which of the following is used to express the concentration of organic molecules in the cells? Gram per cell, mole per cell, millimole per cell, mg per cell. Okay, mg means milligram per liter. Okay, so you can see that we have discussed the concentration that we use is mainly the mole per cell. Okay, moles per cell is the concentration unit that we use to express the concentration of a molecule present in the cells. Now next one, the conversion of a molecule to another molecule is called as the turnover, dynamic state, metabolic flow, enzyme. Okay, enzyme is something that is involved in catalyzing the reactions, and metabolic flow is basically movement of reactions into one form of metabolic reaction into another kind of metabolic reactions. Dynamic state is what always constantly working is called as the dynamic state, right? And turnover is actually going to be our answer, because ultimately if the molecule is going to convert from one form to another form, then it is called as the turnover. Hence A is going to be our right answer for this particular question. Now next one, which of the following statement is not true? The molecules are constantly being converted into another, okay, and metabolic pathways are linear or circular, and the metabolic flow is as dynamic state of the body constituents. Majority of the metabolic reactions occur in isolation, right? So if you recall from the discussion of our previous what we can say just a moment ago points, we have seen that none of the metabolic reactions occur in isolation. They never occur alone. Okay, they are never occurring any in the nook and corner of the cell. They are always occurring in the main ground or the open arena of the cell, that is cytoplasm. Okay, and cytoplasm is the site for occurring of all major biometabolic reactions, right? So hence D is going to be the not a true statement. Major of the metabolic reactions are occurring in the isolation. They never occur in the isolation. Okay, molecules are constantly being converted into one another. Exactly, it is true. Okay, metabolic pathways are linear or circular. Yes, that is also true. Metabolic flow is called as a dynamic state of body constituents. Yes, even that is also a true statement, we can say. Now moving on, the metabolic reactions occurring in the organism are uncatalyzed reactions, linear reactions, catalyzed reactions, and cyclic reactions, right? So we know that the metabolic reactions, major of the metabolic reactions occurring in the cells, they are actually the catalyzed reactions. Okay, now catalyzed reactions are the reactions which are done with the help of the catalytic molecules called as the enzymes, right? Ultimately, enzymes are the molecules which are involved in catalyzing or converting from one type of metabolic reactions. Okay, breaking or forming kind of reactions are done by the enzymes only. Now the next one, removal of carbon dioxide and from amino acids and hydrolysis of the glycosidic bond is metabolic transformations, uncatalyzed reactions, and the equilibrium state, none of the above, right? So we have discussed this example, right, where you're going to remove the carbon dioxide from the amino acid to form an amine, and breaking down of the glycosidic bond from the polysaccharide is actually a kind of a metabolic transformation. Okay, converting it to one type of molecule into another type of molecule is called as the metabolic transformations. A is the right answer for this question. The next one, the concentration, okay, sorry, there's an error over here. The concentration of a glucose in the normal healthy person is 4.1 to 6.8 millimoles per liter, 2.4 to 5.5 millimoles per liter, 3.4 to 8.5 millimoles per liter, and 4.2 to 6.1 millimoles per liter. Okay, so we know the concentration is ranging from around 4.2 to 6.1 millimoles per liter. Hence D is going to be our right answer. Yes. The next question, the living state in a non-equilibrium steady state that performs work and prevents reaching equilibrium. Okay, this is at the expense of metabolic reactions, turnover, energy, metabolic flow. Okay, so we can say that the preventing reaching equilibrium can be done only at the expense of energy. Okay, so hence we can say C is going to be our right answer, and we can say that energy is mainly stored in the form of high energy bonds, and this molecule we know it as the ATP. Hence ATP is also called as the currency of the cell. Now moving on, production of energy is done by metabolism, anabolism, enzymes, and ribozymes. You know it is metabolic reactions. Okay, anabolic reactions mainly consume the energy, right? So we can say metabolic reactions in general, okay, in general speaking, it is mainly the metabolic reactions that is mainly the metabolism is involved in generating the energy. Okay, if they had mentioned about catabolism, then we can say that catabolism could have been the answer for this. Moving on, in a metabolic pathway, when the simple compounds are converted into complex compounds, are called as the anabolic reactions, okay, metabolic reactions, catabolic reactions, dynamic state. Okay, so you know that catabolic reactions where the complex compounds, okay, complex compounds are converted into simple compounds, right? And metabolic reactions are both sum of anabolic and also the metabolic, right? But whereas anabolic reactions are mainly involved in conversion of simple compounds to the complex compounds. So we can say that A is going to be our right answer for this question. Okay, so anabolic reactions are mainly involved in converting the simple molecules to complex molecules. A is the right answer for this question. The next one, in which type of the metabolic reaction that release of energy is anabolic reactions, turnover. Okay, it is turnover. And next one we are having is the catabolic reactions and metabolic flow. Okay, so you know breaking down kind of reactions are mainly the catabolic reactions, and these kind of reactions are mainly involved in energy yielding. It is mainly energy yielding. Okay, so we can say that C is going to be the right answer. Okay, yes, so C is the right answer for this question. The next one, which of the following has the energy in the bonds? Okay, amino acids, glucose, ATP, and NAD. We all know adenosine triphosphate is called as the energy currency of the cell. It is called as the currency of the cell because it mainly has the high energy bonds. It mainly has the high energy bonds that are ultimately what we can say the phosphate bonds. Okay, the phosphate bonds in the ATP are called as the high energy bonds, and ultimately all the energy is stored in the phosphate bonds of the ATP. The next question, converting of metabolites into another through a series of linked reactions, they are called as metabolic pathways, junctions, turnover, and none of the above, right? So converting of metabolites into another through a series of linked reactions. Okay, so if we have mentioned about the linked reaction, okay, interconnection between the metabolic pathways or metabolic reactions, right? So we can say that A is going to be our more appropriate answer rather than the turnover. Okay, turnover is just what we can say converting of one type of molecule into another kind of molecule, right? But in the linked reactions where the movement of molecules are occurring from one particular pathway to another type of a pathway, okay, and they are generally linked in nature, and hence the according to the option that I have mentioned, it is going to be the metabolic pathways. The next one, proteins with a catalytic property are called as the RNA, ribozymes, enzymes, DNA. They are called as mainly the enzymes, right? So if you try to recall, we have discussed that even ribozymes are also the enzymes, right? But however, the catalytic property that is present in the proteins are called as the enzymes, but in the case of ribozymes, the catalytic property is present in the RNA itself. Okay, though the ribozyme contains proteins, the catalytic property is present in the RNA of the ribozymes only, right? So the example for ribozyme is mainly the ribosomes, right? Yes, exactly. So now, the term metabolism means the sum of all the enzymatically catalyzed chemical reactions constantly taking place in cells and tissues of a living organism. Yes, exactly. This is a long definition, and this is the statement that makes more sense over here. Okay, so all the sum of metabolic, that is the anabolic and catabolic reactions, we call it as what? The metabolism. Okay, so instead of giving this definition, if they mention sum of catabolic and anabolic reactions, then also the statement is going to be true. Okay, it is the right answer for going to be the metabolism. Okay, process that converts small molecules into large ones, or the third option, it is the process that converts the large molecules into small one. No, they are called as the catabolism and anabolism. Okay, we know. So the right answer is the A over here. The next one, metabolic flow is dynamic state of body constituents, okay, turnover flow, and flow of traffic junctions, cyclic flow of reactions. It is mainly the dynamic state of a body constituents, right? So we have discussed the metabolites will be constantly moving from one kind of metabolic pathway to the another type of metabolic pathway through a kind of traffic junctions, and there is no traffic jam occurring in at any moment of the pathway, right? And this metabolic flow, the ability of the molecules moving from one kind of metabolic reaction or pathway to another, is called as a steady state, okay, ready state to do the metabolism, also called as the dynamic state of body constituents. Exactly. Okay, so A is going to be our answer over here. Now, next question. Hydrolysis of glycosidic bond is an example for cleavage of biomolecules. Okay, the hydrolysis of biomolecules. Next is the transformation of biomolecules, formation of biomolecules. Okay, so here hydrolysis of a glycosidic bond. Okay, so hydrolysis mainly means what? Breaking down of the glycosidic bond, right? So we cannot say hydrolysis of biomolecules if the term hydrolysis of a bond means, or the formation of water would have been more appropriate. Okay, but we know breaking of this particular bond will result in the formation of a new molecule. Okay, that is the simple sugar kind of molecules. Hence we can say that is an example we have studied in the transformation, metabolic transformation. Hence C is going to be our right answer for this question. That is the transformation of biomolecules. The next one, that is the formation of biomolecules. No, we are breaking the molecules, hence it is not the answer. Hydrolysis, as I said, don't get confused. Okay, it is not hydrolysis. Cleavage of biomolecules, no, that cannot be an answer. It is mainly transformation of biomolecules. Okay, although the A and B options seem to be very similar, okay, but the example this has been mentioned in the transformation of biomolecules. Okay, so stick on to the same option if they are mentioned, or otherwise we can say it is what we can say, cleavage or hydrolysis. They would have been the nearest answer. The next one, formation of lactic acid from the glucose occurs in a dash steps. We all know it is how many steps? It is the 10-step reactions. Okay, so these all 10-step reactions mainly occurs in the cytoplasm. All of these reactions occur in the cytoplasm. Okay, yes. So these reactions are actually called as the glycolysis, as we have mentioned or discussed a moment ago. The next one, one of the major feature of the metabolic reactions is that they are elementary reactions, non-linked reactions, heat evolved reactions, catalyzed reactions. Okay, I think probably the same kind of question we had discussed earlier. Okay, so it appeared in a different way. It is mainly the catalyzed reactions. The major feature of the metabolic reaction is all of these reactions, or at least some major chunk of these reactions, are actually the catalyzed reaction. Okay, catalyzed reactions in the sense they require require, we can say, enzymes for the reactions to speed up or slow down. Now moving on, breaking of a glucose is a glycolysis, a glycogenolysis, a gluconeogenesis, or a glycogenolysis. Okay, so the answer we all know, it is the glycolysis. Okay, so now here remember we are having other three terms that we have to recall quite. Okay, the glycogenesis is mainly conversion of glucose to glycogen. Remember, okay, glycogenolysis, gluconeogenesis mainly means formation, okay, mainly the formation of glucose from non-carbohydrate source, okay. Now that is actually called as the gluconeogenesis. For example, from lipid, okay, lipid, the glucose is actually formed. Okay, or otherwise we can say from proteins, okay, from proteins glucose is actually formed. Okay, it is called as the gluconeogenesis. But generally the pathway starts from the pyruvic acid, remember. Okay, pyruvic acid. From pyruvic acid the glucose is actually formed. Okay, so this is the actual pathway of the, what we can say, the gluconeogenesis. Lastly we are having is the glycogenolysis, where glycogen, okay, glycogen is broken down to give us the glucose. Okay, exactly opposite of this reaction, that is glycogenesis. Okay, so these are some other terms that you people have to remember. The next question, the living state cannot exist without cells, metabolism, catabolism, anabolism. We have discussed this as the last point from the class, that is the living cells cannot exist without the metabolism. So hence we can say B is the right answer. Yes, so we have discussed around 20 questions, and I think probably we have discussed around 60 to 80 questions if I'm not wrong, as this is the 4th class. Okay, and most of the questions I have emphasized from the important points of the textbook itself, and as I urge every time at the end of the class for you students, is that you people have to study and solve more and more questions. Okay, you can refer any material you are having, that is MTG or any such material, that is going to help you a lot. And we can meet in the next part of the video where I will be discussing mainly about the enzymes. And till then, thank you.